You were looking at a sociologist by the name of Janice McCabe. And do you know what she did? She examined nearly 6,000 children's books and noticed a gender bias. There was a disproportionate amount of male characters and female characters in these children's books. So she went through these books and actually counted the number of male characters and female characters. I mean, with all the actual sexism and discrimination against men that gets ignored, feminists are doing this. Wow. Anyway, it turned out that 57% of the children's stories featured male characters, 31% featured female characters, and the remaining 12% featured animals with no clear gender. Okay, once again, we have a feminist using numbers like these to claim discrimination. I just have to ask, why does it matter if there are a few more male characters than female characters? Isn't it more important to look at how these characters are being portrayed? I mean, you can have a lot of men and a few females, and it can still be blatantly sexist against men. I mean, what would be better for her? More female characters portrayed negatively or fewer females portrayed positively? I mean, shouldn't it be more about quality rather than quantity? So according to her, this is sexist. She told Fox News Radio, "We found that males are represented more frequently than females in the titles and the central characters in the book." She also says these findings reinforce the belief that female characters are less important, less interesting than male characters, which has implications for how both boys and girls feel about themselves and each other in relationships. Wow, all that because the females were fewer in number? I mean, did they have to be exactly equal in number for her to be satisfied? What if there were more female characters than male characters? Well, I bet you this quote-unquote study would never have been conducted, and anyone pointing out the fact that there are more female characters would be told, they're just children's books, lighten up. She encourages parents to think about gender when selecting books and reading material for their children. She says, just think about the gender of particular books and be aware of it. Wait a minute. I think I'll do just that. I think that Janice is onto something. Yeah. This is great advice. What an inspiration. If she can talk about sexism in children's books, then so can I. Yeah. Two can play at this game. I'll talk about the children's books I had when I was little, which coincidentally also had bears in them. You ready for it? The Berenstain Bears. Okay, so here we go. Get ready, get set, and go. No, really, that's the name of the first book that I'm going to look at. Okay, so we have the front cover. Mama Bear's the coach, and Papa, brother, and sister are going to be competing. And just look at the fire in Papa Bear's eyes. He's ready to go, and the Cubs know it. So it looks like there's going to be a competition between Papa, brother, and sister. Gee, I wonder who will win and who will come in dead last. Well, the next 2 pages give us a little foreshadowing. Notice Papa and brother are at the start while sister is heading for the finish. Yeah, just what I expected. So the Bears Olympics begin and we start with the race. Papa runs fast, brother is faster, sister runs fastest. So Sister Bear wins that round. The next event is the jumping competition, and the brother wins that one. Now, even though Sister didn't win, at least she wasn't dead last like Papa was, again. Now we have a climbing competition. Papa climbs high, brother climbs higher, and sister climbs highest. Poor old Papa, won't he ever do something the best? Well, as a matter of fact, he does. We find out at the end of this book, and wait until you see what it is. Anyway, the diving starts and brother wins that, but Papa still comes in dead last. Then sister wins the driving, pogo stick, and swing competitions, while Papa comes in dead last in all of them, as expected. So here comes the moment we've all been waiting for. They're all wiped out and take a rest. So Mama Bear decides to make a competition out of it. The bears go to sleep. Sister sleeps long. She is a good sleeper. Brother sleeps longer. He is a better sleeper. Papa's still asleep. He is the best sleeper. Okay, so the only time sister ever comes in dead last was with the sleeping, and that is the only competition Papa Bear won. So this story is basically saying that girls can do better than boys in many areas and don't even need much rest afterwards. And also, men are just completely useless, but they sure are good at sleeping. There is something Papa Bear does the best. He's a much better sleeper than the rest. Wow, what an honor. And I bet Janice would think that this is sexist because there were 2 males and 1 female in the competition, despite the fact that the female won and is portraying Papa Bear as a useless bum who's only good at sleeping. Yeah, and I bet that she would think that this one is sexist too. I don't like that man in the word manners. It should be womaners. Anyway, let's look at this cover. The Berenstain Bears forget their manners. Well, all of them except for Mama Bear, of course. Even Papa Bear is acting like the immature cubs in this one. So this story reinforces this idea that men are just overgrown children and women have to be the ones to maintain order and civility, and without women, there would only be chaos. So as you can see, Mama Bear is concerned with all the rude behavior of the other bears. At first it was the occasional please or thank you that was forgotten. Then there was a rude push without an excuse me. They have no table manners and they call each other names like Sillyhead, Fuzzbrain, and Noodlepuss? Okay. So Mama Bear is wondering why all of this is happening. So, of course, Mama Bear tried to correct brother and sister's behavior. Yeah, because Papa Bear doesn't care about this. Only Mama Bear is the concerned parent of the two. She tried coaxing, complaining, and shouting. And get a load of what's next. She tried going to Papa for help, though it sometimes seemed to Mama that he was part of the problem. Yeah, only Mama is the mature adult, and Papa is just as bad as the cubs. Papa, being a man, is only part of the problem. Papa is supposed to be the reliable parent, just like Mama, but nope, he isn't. Papa banged on the table and shouted as only he could shout, but nothing really seemed to do any good. So Mama Bear takes matters into her own hands, or should I say paws, and decides to make the Bear Family Politeness Plan. So she's going over the politeness plan with the family. Notice how Mama Bear is standing up, imparting her wisdom to the rest of the family, while Papa Bear is sitting down with the cubs. Yeah, Papa Bear is on the same level as the cubs, while Mama Bear is portrayed as the only real adult in the room. So what is this politeness plan, you may ask? Well, it's a list of rude behaviors as well as a list of consequences for each rude act. The cubs don't like this one bit and start to complain, and while Mama Bear is explaining why manners are important, Papa Bear chimes in and agrees with her, but uh-oh, Papa interrupted Mama while he was agreeing with her. That rude asshole. Now he has to go and dust for breaking rule number 3, so Mama hands him the duster. And look at her face, like, oh yeah, I'm in charge here. I mean, why did Mama Bear have to be made out to be so perfect in this one? Wouldn't the story make an awesome point by showing that even Mama Bear can forget her manners from time to time too? And has to follow her own rules and face the exact same consequences? And you notice how the penalties for breaking these rules are all household chores that Mama Bear would normally do herself anyway? There are no penalties that would help Papa Bear out. I mean, what if in this story Mama Bear was rude like the cubs and Papa Bear was the perfect one who made up all the rules, and maybe Mama Bear interrupts Papa and Papa makes her help him cut down a tree? So brother and sister concoct a little scheme. Instead of acting polite, they'll act super polite. That is so polite to the point that Mama Bear will be fed up. That'll show her. So Brother Bear is all, after you, sis. I never heard sister say, after you, brother. I'd love to see that once in a while. In the hall. Excuse me, brother dear. Why, certainly, my dear sister. Why do they have to have their arms out like that? Anyway, this plan backfires because the cubs forgot about being super polite, and then they were just polite. Good for the cubs, but I wonder how Papa is doing. Of course he has extra chores to do because he's constantly forgetting his manners. It's harder to change habits when you're older. Okay, so Papa's habits are rude but Mama's are not? So the family goes on to talk about the importance of manners, and then Papa Bear gets into a little car accident. Yeah, not only has he forgotten his manners, he also doesn't pay attention while he's driving either. Mama Bear wouldn't be like this though, she's perfect. So Shooter McGavin, reincarnated as a bear, comes out in a rage, but Papa's politeness rubs off on him. And we end with Papa Bear thanking Sister for reminding him to remember his manners. Yes, because according to this story, men are just slobs and we need females to remind us of good manners. This next one is called Too Much TV, and once again, Mama Bear's the reasonable one while the cubs and Papa just stare at the television like mindless zombies. Just look at this cover. Mama's like, come on guys, really? And the rest of the family is all, duh. On the next page, we see two pictures sitting on the television set. One is a picture of Mama Bear, and the other one is of Papa and the cubs. Yeah, Mama can't even be in the same picture, like, yeah, I can't be seen with the rest of you screw-ups. When the TV is on, all day without rest, Mama knows it's too much, and Mama knows best. Of course Mama knows best. It sure as hell wouldn't be Papa knows best, right? Because that would be sexist, but this isn't at all. So it's a beautiful, peaceful spring day, la-di-da-di-da. Brother and sister come charging into the house to watch some television, and Papa joins them. What's with his eyes? And Mama decides that they are watching too much TV and thinks about how all this could have happened. I mean, there used to be conversations going on at the dinner table, but not anymore. The Cubs used to play outdoors, but not anymore. So Mama Bear has had enough and prevents them from watching television. And of course, Papa Bear has to come in and agree with Mama's actions because obviously, what she says goes in this house. Papa Bear may wear the pants in this family, but Mama Bear tells him which pair to wear. So Papa thinks that Mama was only talking to the kids, so he says, "Now if you'll excuse me, there's a sports show I want to watch." But no. He's not getting away that easily. What Mama said about no television applies to him too. Look at her laying down the law, pointing her finger at him while he has a gaped mouth. So Papa is confused. Without TV, how on earth is he going to get the news? And Mama has to explain to him what a newspaper is. Look at the expressions on their faces. Mama's like, "It's called a newspaper, you moron." Again, Mama is the smart one who has to tell Papa about a newspaper, but Papa is the dumb one who couldn't figure that out for himself. How will we know what the weather will be? And once again, Mama Bear just has all the answers, doesn't she? Put your hand out the window. Well, I believe the question was, how will we know what the weather will be? Not, what is the weather like now? So you lose this round, Mama Bear. And why would you need to put your hand out anyway? You can simply look through the window and see whether or not it's raining. You don't need to feel the rain, you can see the rain. So without television, all they have left to do is sit around and talk. And of course, Papa falls asleep. Yeah, the thing that men do best, apparently. But not only does he fall asleep, he snores. And not only does he snores so loudly that the other bears are not able to hear themselves talking. Way to make men look lazy. Yeah, Papa is only up for television, but since there is no television, all he can do is sleep. The Cubs go about their daily routine, but without the television. But then Sister notices an ad for a TV special from the newspaper that Papa is reading. But Mama is sticking to her guns and says, no TV for a week means no TV for a week. So instead, they go look at the stars, and it was just spectacular. The next day, the whole family goes shopping at Bear Country Mall. Sister got some yarn, and brother got a cube. They did have to keep an eye on Papa, though. Yeah, of course they did. Papa is so immature, even more so than the Cubs, so everybody needs to keep an eye on him. Yeah, even the Cubs are acting more like adults than Papa in this one. Yes, the full-grown man of the family is the one who's sneaking off and doing the wrong thing, and he's being stared at with looks of shame, like, how dare you watch television? Yes, and he sneaks down in the middle of the night, but Mama and the Cubs catch him in the act. So the last day of the one-week television ban came by, and everybody said that they would get some snacks and start watching TV again. But they didn't. Brother played with his cube, and Sister started knitting a rug. The only one who actually did watch TV all day was Papa. Of course he did! The book ends with, finally, even Papa had enough and decided to bait his hook for a couple of those leaping trout. Yes, even Papa. It's so shocking that there exists such a massive amount of television that even Papa would be sick of. Next up, we have too much junk food, and yet again, we have the bad behavior of the Cubs and Papa, while Mama Bear is the only one with the good sense to know that junk food is unhealthy. Healthy food is good for brother, sis, and dad. How can Mom make them stop eating food that is bad? Because it's up to the mother to change their bad habits, right? Mama Bear is always the perfect one that just knows everything. Okay, so we see the Cubs munching on junk food every single chance they get, and Mama Bear noticed that they were getting chubby. So she takes away their snacks. Then Papa Bear comes in, and the first thing he says is that Mama is right. Yep, without even knowing what's going on, Papa says, there's no use arguing with your mother when she's made up her mind. But then Mama tells him that his Sweet Cola days are over. So Mama Bear takes away Papa Bear's junk food too. So then what happens? He bends over and rips his overalls. I'm not surprised. So anyway, Papa is really confused because all he eats is junk food, so he can't imagine what else there could possibly be to eat. What sort of healthy, nourishing food? Papa asked Mama as she sewed up his overalls. Vegetables right out of our garden, of course, and fruit from our orchard. And what are we supposed to drink? Asked Papa. Try this, she said. It's called water. You have to explain what water is to him? Geez, not only are men rude, only good for sleeping, watch too much TV, and eat only junk food, but they're stupid too. They have to be told about newspaper and water because they can't figure it out for themselves. So they go to the supermarket, and while Mama tries to pick out some fruit, Papa and the Cubs head right for the candy section. And look at their embarrassed expressions. It's not like they're buying porno. They're just buying candy. While she was waiting in the checkout line, someone said, "I'm glad to see that cartload of nutritious food, Mama Bear." It was Dr. Grizzly, the Bears family doctor. "You must believe in good food for a healthy body." "Well, I certainly do," said Mama, "but I'm not sure about the rest of my family." Dr. Grizzly took a look at Papa and the cubs. She said, "I see what you mean. They look like they could use a little professional advice. Stop by my office tomorrow, please." So they all go to Dr. Grizzly, and she shows them a film about health, and we don't need to see that. So Sister asks the doctor, what harm does junk food actually do? So she goes to Papa Bear and pinches his fat. Geez, can this doctor be any more rude? Looks like Dr. Grizzly forgot her manners. I wonder what Mama's politeness plan has to say about pinching someone's fat without their permission and hurting them too. Clearly Papa was in pain from that. But that doesn't matter because any form of pain against men is permissible, even in children's books. So the doctor advises them to eat right and exercise, and they all do just that for the rest of this book. With Papa puffing behind and struggling to keep up, of course. Okay, now I know what some people at this point may be saying. Well, you know, Sister Bear was eating the junk food, watching too much TV, and forgetting her manners just like the males did. To that I just have to say, she's still a cub. The youngest one at that. At her young age, she doesn't know any better. But being female, she's going to grow up to be just like Mama Bear. Apparently, females grow out of this behavior, whereas males do not. I mean, just look at Papa Bear. Next up, the Berenstain Bears get in a fight. We start off in the morning where everything is normal. Brother and sister get along very well, and of course, brother has to let the sister go first, just like he didn't forget their manners. They have table manners, sit next to each other on the bus, work on their treehouse. But one gray morning, sister's feet were dangling in front of brother's face, which really pissed him off. So they start a fight and all hell breaks loose. She skipped to the bathroom ahead of him. I just have to laugh at this one because even if they weren't fighting, sister would still go first anyway since brother always lets her go first. So that's something that hasn't changed. So the book goes on to, whoa! Are we supposed to be looking at this? I sure hope Pedo Bear doesn't make an appearance later on in this book. So anyway, the cubs are keeping their distance and trying not to say anything to each other. Let's see how Papa and Mama try to resolve this conflict. Papa loses his temper and starts shouting at the cubs to stop their shouting. How ironic. Mama, on the other hand, takes charge as usual and does what needs to be done. She whistles loudly to get everyone's attention and talks it out with the cubs. Papa says to Mama, "You and I don't have arguments." But Mama says they do. And Papa says that they don't, and Mama says that they are having an argument right now. Gee, surprise, surprise. An argument between Mama and Papa, and who ends up being right? Mama Bear, of course. Males are always wrong. And Papa Bear is so stupid that he has to think that one over. Like, I guess she has a point. So once again, the Mama is the one who solves a problem which Papa Bear is a part of. And Papa Bear, once again, comes off like the stupid idiot. He has to have water and newspapers explained to him, and he somehow gets stumped when Mama said that they were arguing about having arguments. In this one, brother and sister want a bunch of crap and throw temper tantrums if they don't get what they want. When a cub's behavior takes a turn for the worst, it's hard for parents to know what to do first. Now, before I continued, I thought to myself that Papa Bear was going to be the one to cave in and give the cubs what they wanted, but Mama Bear would be the one to actually do the right thing. Let's see if I was right. Our story starts off in the supermarket. As you can see, the cubs are used to getting everything that they want. As you can see, they have their eyes on the candy as they're checking out. But Mama Bear says, "Now cubs, we can't have a big fuss every time we pass candy. I simply won't stand for it." But they continue to beg, and that's when Papa steps in and gives the cubs what they want. Now, who didn't see that coming from a mile away? Yes, he may have made the cubs temporarily happy, but he did the wrong thing. As usual, Papa did the wrong thing while Mama is the one who always does the right thing. As Mama is talking to Papa about that, the cubs see a bucking frog and want to ride on it. And of course, Papa caves in yet again. And of course, Mama imparts her words of wisdom onto Papa so that maybe he'll start being a better parent like her. Now the cubs see a bear with a mustache selling squeezable cats that stick their tongue out. And the cubs want to get their paws on those too. That's when Papa Bear said, "Alright, now you're just going too far. Time to get serious." So he shouts at the cubs, telling them to stop, but the cubs make such a fuss. And nobody wants to be embarrassed in public like that, so once again, Papa Bear caves in and buys them those squeezable cats, which I'm sure the cubs would be bored with after one day. So they annoy the crap out of Papa Bear by squeaking their little toys throughout the entire car ride home. Mama was quite annoyed by the time they got back to the treehouse, but Papa was so angry he could hardly speak. It wasn't until the Cubs had gone about their business and Mama had made a pot of tea that Papa's voice came back loud and clear. Of all the outrageous, disgraceful, embarrassing behavior I have ever seen, he roared. That selfish, greedy performance by our Cubs was the worst. Brother and sister have the worst case of the galloping, greedy Gimmies I've ever seen. So of course Mama is the one who keeps her cool, whereas Papa Bear loses it. And perfect Mama knows what the real problem is and how to solve it. She asks Papa if he ever stopped to think about why they have the Gimmies and suggests that it's partly their fault for caving in and giving the Cubs everything they want, and they should explain to the Cubs that it's important to not be greedy. Yet again, Mama is the one who comes up with the solution to the problem, unlike Papa Bear. Not only does Papa Bear not find solutions, he's usually also part of the problem. He was the one to cave in and give the Cubs what they wanted, but Mama is the one to bring back order and peace in the family. So Papa sits the Cubs down and explains to them everything that Mama told them. But then Granny and Gramps come by and the Cubs just charge right out and ask, "What'd you bring me? What'd you bring me?" And then Papa yells at them and sends them to their room. They explain to Granny and Gramps that the Cubs have the worst case of the galloping greedy Gimmies. "The worst case, you say?" said Gramps. "Seems to me you were quite a gimme Cub yourself when you were little." "I was?" And then we're taken to a little flashback. Yes, Papa was just like that when he was a Cub. I'm sure little Miss Perfect Mama Bear was never like that, though. I just want to briefly touch on this one. Look at the front cover for this book. So Papa looks really angry that Brother received a bad grade on a quiz. But what always made me uneasy is how Mama and Sister are standing in the back. Look at the expressions on their faces. It's almost as if they're afraid that Papa Bear is going to beat the shit out of Brother Bear. Even the owl lamp is afraid. But what actually happens in the story? Mama and Papa weren't exactly pleased when they heard about the big mess Brother had gotten himself into. But they didn't holler and pound the table either. Not even Papa. Right, not even Papa. Yeah, the parent who can't control his temper surprisingly didn't pound the table, or Brother Bear for that matter. Anyway, Gramps puts out some cookies, and while Papa Bear is just snacking away, Mama Bear actually handles this situation the correct way. Yeah, while Papa is just munching on some cookies and not caring, Mama acts like the real parent and takes care of business the right way. In this one, Mama gets a new job. When Mama gets home too late for a meal, how will the Cubs and Papa Bear feel? And the note reads, "Supper will be a little late, as if only women can cook." And look how happy the female bears are in front of this picture. And look how disappointed the male bears are in the back. I have no idea what that's about. Now the Bear family is very busy. Papa cuts and splits logs to make furniture to sell. Mama Bear not only took care of her family, but she managed the whole treehouse and tended to the vegetable patch as well. Yeah, they used the words "not only" to imply that Mama Bear has a lot on her plate, trying to portray Mama Bear as the busiest bear of all of them, basically belittling the work of Papa Bear. And she is the one who takes care of the family. It wouldn't be Papa who does that, right? Seeing as how Papa is so immature, it's like having a third cub. Mama just has to watch over everybody. The members of the Bear family had hobbies too. Papa's favorite hobbies were fishing and napping. He caught almost as many naps as he caught fish. Again with the sleeping? I mean, can we portray the adult male of the family to be any more lazy? I mean, the book doesn't even say anything like, "Papa Bear worked so hard making his furniture, he hasn't stopped for hours. It was time for him to take a well-deserved nap." Nope. He sleeps because that's his hobby. Unlike Mama, who isn't lazy. She helps Brother fly a tether plane and counts the number of times Sister jumps rope. What back-breaking work. Mama, on the other hand, is so busy that she only has time for one hobby. But what a hobby! Mama was the best quilt maker in all of Bear Country. Her quilts were light and fluffy, but very warm. Her stitchery was fine and even, and her designs were original and exciting. Yes, they are portraying the adult woman of the family as being so busy that she barely has any time for herself. And even in the rare instances she does, she uses that time to do something productive like making quilts, whereas the adult male of the family is portrayed as having all the time in the world to sleep. Yes, the members of the bear family had happy, busy, full lives. Especially Mama. Papa asks Mama to set aside some fishing worms if it's not too much trouble for her. Brother and sister ask her to spend some more time with them, but Mama Bear just wants some more time to work on her quilts. However, there's just not enough time. Then one fine day, Papa was having a furniture sale, and Mama just so happened to have her quilts hanging up. Even though the quilts were not for sale, other bears wanted to buy them. In fact, one customer said that she should make a business out of it. But Papa is all, "Mama in business? Ha! I don't think so. One business bear in the family is enough." Okay, so Papa Bear has to be portrayed as someone who disapproves of Mama going into business. He has to keep her down. So Papa Bear is made to be the bad guy in this scenario, and this book is helping push this false idea that women are always being kept down by men. So Mama Bear thinks about it and decides she wants to go into the quilting business. The cubs don't like this one bit, and Mama explains how there are other female bears with jobs, and there's no reason why she can't have one either. They all wonder what it's going to be like without her around as much. Like, oh my god, what are we going to do without Mama Bear? I mean, Papa Bear's a total screw-up, so whatever shall we do? But they all manage. Later that night, Mama comes home looking as tired as ever. Sure, when Mama gets tired, it's because she worked hard. But when Papa gets tired, it's because he's lazy. Anyway, Papa brings her a tub of warm water for her feet. Okay, first of all, Papa Bear's in a business too. And I'm sure he must get tired from all the work he does chopping wood and everything. But do we ever see Mama bring him a tub of warm water for his feet? No! And second of all, why would Mama Bear need a tub of warm water for her feet anyway? She sews quilts. You sit down and you use your hands for that. I mean, maybe she uses a foot pedal, but damn, is it really that excruciating on the feet? Anyway, the best part of this book is at the end where Mama treats everybody to dinner. Yes, she is making money so she can contribute financially as well. So yes, a lot of these books portrayed the mother as the parent who is truly in charge, who knows her stuff, who barely has any free time for herself, who has the solution to everyone's problems, who is just perfect in every way, while Papa is just immature, has to take parenting lessons from Mama Bear, is usually part of the problem, sleeps a lot, and has bad habits like watching too much TV, eating too much junk food, and forgetting his manners. The last book I want to talk about is called No Girls Allowed. Now, despite the cover, this story is more offensive to the male gender, because right away it's showing that a girl is being excluded, and that reinforces the idea that only girls are the victims of discrimination, and this could never happen to a boy. Besides, they're obviously going to say how No Girls Allowed is wrong. Ironically, there's another book called Slumber where it's a girls-only party. Why is that okay? I mean, look how evil the bears look when they exclude Sister from their clubhouse, and see how Sister is crying like the poor discriminated victim. But the girls don't look evil at all for excluding boys from their slumber party. In fact, the boys who are excluded from the slumber party are the ones who look like the bad guys because they have to crash the slumber party to get in. Well, if they were invited in the first place, then it wouldn't be crashing the party, now would it? The idea that this party was originally supposed to be for girls only isn't even brought up as an issue in that story. So it's okay for girls to hang out together and do their own thing, but if boys ever did that, it's discrimination. So how come the slumber party gathering was intended for girls only? How come the boys weren't invited? This might as well have been called No Boys Allowed, but no, it was just supposed to be a gathering where all the girls got together to hang out. Now, why on earth did the boys set forth this No Girls Allowed policy for their clubhouse? Well, let's find out. Well, she just seems to be a tag-along ruining their fun. She's messing up tree climbing and marbles and so on. But after a while, she becomes a faster runner, higher climber, and wins at marbles. And the boys just simply did not want her to hang out with them. It certainly is good to see Sister and brother and their friends playing so nicely together, said Papa. Look, they're organizing a baseball game. Yes, said Mama, but it does worry me just a little that Sister is the only girl in the group. Of course Mama says this. Why does this worry you? What difference does it make that she's the only girl? Why does that matter? But she says, think back. How would you have liked it when you were a cub if some little girl could outrun, outclimb, and outhit you? And he says that he wouldn't have liked it. Oh, okay, so the reason why Mama was worried that Sister was the only girl was because apparently girls are better at everything than boys are, and the boys just can't stand it. Yes, this is the message these books are sending to little kids. Well, nobody likes to lose, but they could have done without Sister doing cartwheels and victory dances every time she won. So anyway, the boys have had enough. Sister goes outside the next couple of days and doesn't know where the boys are, but that's okay because she does her own stuff. Yeah, stuff that she could have always been doing instead of annoying the other cubs. But after a while, she really starts looking for them and eventually discovers their little hideout. And when she does, she has to go ahead and do that stupid victory dance for no apparent reason. What was that for? Just stop. You know, these boys aren't being mean. All they want to do is hang out with each other, so they try to find a way to do this. I mean, is it so wrong that they don't want to play with Sister? I mean, why do they have to include her? There are plenty of things girls like to do themselves, and there are some things that boys like to do themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly normal. It's apparent the boys don't want to hang out with her, so do you think maybe she'll react by thinking, oh well, I'm obviously bothering them, or they don't want to hang out with me, so I'll go do something else? No. What does she do? What else? She cries all the way home and tells her parents about it. Papa gets up in an angry rage, shouting that he's going to tear that clubhouse limb from limb. While Mama Bear is thinking of a reasonable solution, of course. And of course she does. Mama Bear stops them and says, I don't think that's the answer. Yes, and as always, I'm sure Mama has the actual solution, because Mama Bear is always the only one who knows what she's talking about. She suggests that Sister forms her own clubhouse, and she does just that with the help of other girl cubs who also got left out. Sister starts to make a sign saying no boys allowed. She says those boys were just being mean because I out-hit them and won all their marbles. They're bad losers. Then Mama says, I suppose that's true. No. That's not true at all. They were annoyed with Sister even before she was beating them at that stuff, because she was being annoying. The cartwheels and the victory dances she did only made matters worse. At least Mama Bear pointed that out to her, too. Anyway, the boys smell the food that Papa was grilling, and they come over to have some barbecue at the girls' clubhouse. And Brother asks if the girls would like to go back to their place for some dessert. Nah, too easy. So they did just that, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. And if you watched this video in its entirety, then I applaud you. That is all.